Hello, hello, folks. Welcome. Another episode. People First, Then Construction. Jonathan Sinelli here, once again coming to you from TCL, The Construction Life, with Manny and Angelina here. This is tremendously important. We're talking about partnerships. We're talking alignment. And I want to pivot. I have a wonderful conversation that you're about to jump into with Dr. Robb Kelly. And you'll hear him refer to Manny. He's referring to Manny from The Construction Life because that's the name that pops up. And what's so funny is we don't even touch on it because it's not of importance. What is of importance is how Dr. Robb takes us through a pathway of his alcoholism, how it literally destroyed his life, how he found himself on the streets for 14 months, how he attempted to kill himself at least 50 times, how he died twice, pivoted past it all, how he believes in the reason that he's here. There's so much here, folks. It's highly emotional. I break down in tears. I've never, ever come across a human being like this. It just touched, moved, and inspired me. Every single second of the conversation. This one is going to pull on all your heartstrings. I can't wait to get into this with you. Thanks for being here today. Dr. Robb, thanks for being here again. Just before we push the record button, we're navigating through, and I really want to get that how appreciative I am. This conversation has been a long time in the making for me. It started several months ago when I heard you on another podcast, and it brought me to tears. And I reached out to you, and I want to thank you and your team right away for reconnecting to say, Jonathan, it would be an honor to chat. And then we started, and technology doesn't always work on our side, and it failed. And yet you still showed up and made an effort to be here. So that truly touches my heart. That means a lot to me. So thank you. Thank you. And this, folks, this is what it's about, right? Like, things in life happen and we pivot past them. We can have limiting beliefs and so many different narratives in our head and the stories that come with that. And yet not once, and embarrassingly, right? Like, this is all what's going on in my world. And embarrassingly, I'm reaching out, and not once did you say, nor anybody in your team say, no, time's passed, so let's do this again. So thank you.
There's a few people that come along in my life, and you're one of those, where I don't know too much about you, but you have this something about you that when we had to cancel, it was immediately onto Courtney say Buckley Skying again. I love Manny Bucking again. So yeah, man, of course, my pleasure, and I really mean that. My pleasure to be here, Manny. Thank you.
Thank you. And listen, so look, the space you're in today, which is so miraculous, it wasn't always the space you were in, right? And I want to just jump right back into, give our audience sort of like a quick little snapshot on how you ended up where you are today, because today is where the big stuff is happening.
Yeah, it is. We've come a long way from the projects. I was born in Manchester, England. Just in case some of you think I'm from East Texas, I am not. I'm from England. So yeah, I just took my first drink at the age of 9. Come from a musical family. It was actually on stage in Liverpool, England. I remember it to the second. And my alcoholism started kicking off from there. Nobody knew about alcoholism. So I suffered badly. And through the years and years, I drank more and more and more. Keep coming with excuses to get away with it. Got married. That'll solve the problem. No good. First child came along. Second child came along. It just continued, and I continued on a self-destruct pattern of losing everything. And eventually, after so many years, I did end up on the streets, homeless for about 14 months, and died twice, and attempted 5 times. They brought me back to life on them 2 occasions, and I hated them men for that, by the way, Manny. And then swore if I ever got off the streets that I would help people like me. And not just alcoholic and addict, because that's 20% of our work today, but just childhood trauma, people who don't think they're good enough. And the big thing we have is our family systems, which is when we do work with alcoholics and addicts, we find out that when their family joins our program, in fact, we won't take them without them joining, success rate goes up by around 42%. And here we are today. We have the Robb Kelly Foundation rocking and rolling, Neuro Hero, Neuro Realty. We've got a lot of things going. And I want to say this before I say anything else. 25% of our work is pro bono, but there is a 12-month waiting list. But we work with A-listers. We're with very affluent people, very famous people. We're very discreet. We're a concierge service. And we just love what we do, man, because we do what we love. Boom, baby.
Love that. And there's so much to unpack there, right? So you go back, like, first, I mean, high five on that one. There's a lot of accomplishments there, and there's some proud moments. And yet, you know, the way you talk about it, it's like living on the streets for 14 months, and you touched on it. You're like, it sounds like you tried to take your life. I think you said about 5 times, and you died a couple of times, and you're still here today. So there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, I should have died at least, and I'm being real with you now, at least 50 times. I should have died, tried to take my own life, fallen off buildings, all sorts of stuff. So whether it's Yeshua, Yahweh, God, Jesus, Uncle Jimmy's, universe, I don't know, whatever you're choosing, Gabe, but somebody up there is looking after me and placed me in a position today to be very powerful when it comes to taking people from a mess that they're in to a fantastic life. So definitely looking after me.
So is there a point in time where you just, there's a breaking point in your brain? Is I'm done with this?
With the way I was living, or?
Yeah. So, you know,
God, 100 times I must have said that I'm done with it. But the misconception with alcoholism is that we have a choice and that we can just stop, go to a few meetings and not drink again. That's not the case. We have a chronic illness here which kills us. The choice is taken away from us as alcoholics. Now, alcoholics are born and drug addicts are made. Oh, people hate it when I say that, but it's true. You have to remember, we've been in this industry for over 30 years. We're probably the leading neuroscience experts when it comes to addiction and alcoholism and childhood trauma. But yeah, I mean, I was done so many times, Manny. And people have heard it time and time again, you know. For me, sorry became a sorry word because I said it that many times.
What does that mean? Sorry became a sorry word.
I say sorry, but I'm sorry I realized, I'm sorry I drank, I'm sorry I took the kids to the local park and left them to go to the liquor store. I'm sorry. Just everybody was sick of me saying sorry because it didn't mean anything. Really. So I try not to say sorry today, especially when I've done something wrong and I go and make my amends real quick. But I do say I regret. I regret that having happened in the past, but I was sick. You know, I was very sick with a disease that for which there is no cure. So, but don't, you know, people say that, but there's no cure for food poisoning or the common cold. I mean, there's ways around it. I've recovered from that disease and got my life back. But yeah, it's just, you know, I messed up so many times, man. Okay, I'm done now. I'm sick of living like this. No, even after stabbing my wife 3 times one night because she wouldn't let me finish my bottle of vodka and I said I was done, I wasn't done. I went on for another year almost of drinking.
Okay. Take us into that scenario, right? I mean, you glance over it now because you've obviously reflected and come to terms with it, and you've shared this story a number of times, but, you know, bring our audience who has not heard this story about that evening.
Sure. Well, you know, I'd been drinking probably night and day. I'd been drunk for about 6 months. I never told anybody that, Manny. That was the honest truth. Wake up in the morning drinking at 4 a.m. and I would come around and I would pass out at nighttime. I never went to sleep and got up in the morning. And I was running a successful business at the time. But I came home one night, went to bed. I had an early 6 a.m. with a board meeting before the office is open. And it was around about 2 o'clock in the morning when I woke up wide awake and I needed a drink. I was craving for that drink, beyond my mental control, by the way. So I went downstairs and I knew somewhere that I had a bottle of vodka. So I was searching the kitchen and I finally found it. It was half a bottle at the time. And it's like winning the lottery. If any alcoholics out there, you'll know exactly, or drug addicts, you'll know exactly what I mean by this. I was so happy that it was there and I could drink it. I put it on the side counter for a second. And here's the madness, Manny. I turned around to get a crystal glass worth about £100 back in the 80s, you know, because, hey, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm going to pour this alcohol that's just making me insane into a crystal glass so I can be worthy of drink. Insanity. But when I turned around to get glass when I turned back towards the bottle. My wife had followed me downstairs and she snatched a bottle off me off the side of the counter. She said, I think you've had enough. Well, I was insane with the disease of alcoholism. So she said, you should go back upstairs and sleep it off and get up in the morning, go to your board meeting. What I should have said is, thank you, Mrs. Kelly, you are right. But I grabbed a kitchen knife out and I stabbed her 3 times. Not life-threatening, but enough to blood coming out. I snatched the bottle off her. She lay on the floor bleeding. I finished my bottle of vodka. I stumbled to the door. I called a taxi, which the rank was just literally 30 seconds away. So when the taxi arrived, I called the ambulance and the police. And then I waited until I could hear the sirens in the background. I jumped in a cab and I fled to Spain because I knew I'd be done for attempted murder.
Holy moly.
Yeah. And that's just one of the things I've done. I've done 1,000 things like that. Oh, yeah, but he didn't stop me drinking, Manny. I came back. There's a sad story I always tell when I came back. Say again?
Yeah, no, keep going. I want to know what happens after that. What happens next?
Yeah. Well, I used to do some horrible things. When I was drinking, I'd leave the children all over the place and, stuff like that. So I was definitely insane. I was definitely irresponsible, but I was out of my own mind. And it just, when I came back, she had all the bags packed. Because we agreed with the attorney. In England, back in the 80s, if you tried to kill someone but didn't, and the person didn't want to press charges, the police couldn't do anything about it. I think it's changed now. Not like America where you get arrested and tried because the state wants to do it. It was different in England. So all parties agreed. So they called me in Spain and said, well, dropped all charges on faxing the paperwork over. So I came back. When I got home, she had all the kids there, 2 children. So I waited to leave. And she said, I'll love you to the day I die, but you're not going to kill me or the children. And she left for her mother. I was so mad, man. It's like, you can't do this to me. Do you know who I am? I was a freaking drunk. That's what I was.
Hang on. Whoa. So when you say, hang on, you can't do this to me. Again, you're living through the labels and the accomplishments of life. Is that true?
Yes.
Like, look at me. I've accomplished all this stuff for our family. You can't leave me. How dare you? And all that stuff's going through your head. This is huge, right? Like, this is what I want. You're giving me shivers saying this because there's so many people out there who this is the life we live. Like, I'm going to work for our family. How dare you? You leave. So thank you. I needed to jump in there. So she said, so let's go back here. So she says, the bags are packed. I'm leaving. You have that come up in your brain. You can't do this to me. So what now?
Yeah.
What happens next?
She leaves, and I get my attorney on my phone in the afternoon, and we spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions, with. I told him to get to court next morning, get a court order, and get my children back. And he did. He went to the court first thing. I don't know whether he knew the judge or not, but he turned up at my door in the morning with my children, and my wife kept, calling the house and everything. And I took him in. I paid him a big check for bringing them. I put them in front of the TV. I walked into the kitchen and I thought, wouldn't it be great just to have one drink to celebrate the children home? So I had one drink. I opened the first can, and 2 or 3 days later, when the police kicked the door down, the children had been fed or changed diaper days 1 and 3. They nearly died. And the police stormed in and they grabbed the children and they gave my youngest one to her mom and my eldest one 3. She took by the hand. So Charlie is holding mommy's hand as he walked down the path. And this is where I self-destructed, because she said 3 things to me as she's walking out the path, down with mommy holding her hand. Devastation behind, vodka bottles all over the place. I'd nearly killed him. And this is what she said: Daddy, please don't go. And they walked. I'm crying now. I'm crying with devastation about what I've done.
Of course.
Yeah, crying. One of the police officers are crying. She walked down the path, but halfway she turned around and said, Daddy, please get better. And it's sad and I'm hurting. She gets down to the gate with mom and they open the big gate. And just before she disappears, she turned around one more time and says, she turned around one more time and says, Daddy, please stop drinking. And I couldn't do it, Manny. I couldn't do it. And 30 years on, I've still not seen my youngest daughter. I closed the door. I went into oblivion. And about 6 months later, the houses are gone, the cars are gone, my license to practice to be taken off me, the children are gone. My mother-in-law didn't want to speak to me. My parents didn't want to speak to me. I ended up on the streets of Manchester. That's how it went down.
Holy smokes. Like, I mean, I'm, thank you. Like, I'm emotional hearing that. She says all this too. I can't, just taking a deep breath. Like that's huge. And it doesn't stop there, right? She said what she said, but it sounds like it wasn't enough yet. It wasn't enough yet.
Wasn't, Manny. And when people get to that point, they go, hey, wow, that must have been it for you. It's like, that was no way near it for me. You know, and just for getting into some more heavy stuff, I want you to know, guys, if you do the right thing, get into a program. We use neuroscience and neuroplasticity and psychology to change people's brains permanently from addiction and alcoholism. But if you get right, things start to come back. And I'll tell you why. Abigail is my youngest daughter, ages 28, 29, I don't know, years on, still never seen her. My eldest, Charlotte, I lay in bed one morning about 3 o'clock in the morning and ping. Well, I'm a concierge doctor, so I only have a certain amount of payments, high profile patients. So I'm available 24 hours. So I grabbed the phone and it was a messenger text from my daughter, Charlie, after 30 years. I cleared my eyes and I looked at her again and I woke my wife up and I'm almost crying. And I said, is that, God, I've not really told this story in depth, Manny. Is that Charlie? Is that Charlie? And she said, yeah. And she said something like, I want to see you. I don't believe what everyone told me in the past. I've just seen you on TV. I have something to show you and tell you. Please, can you come over? So we jumped on the next plane available and we flew over there. And I remember standing outside the door, Manny, and this is all this stuff going through my head. What a crap father you are. You know, you've never been there for her. And she opened the door unexpectedly. We fell into each other's arms and we cried and we laughed. It was probably about 20 seconds, but it felt like 20 glorious minutes. And I'm like so amazed to be holding my daughter again. And she walks me into the living room and she hands me my 3-month-old granddaughter.
My gosh.
So I knew I was doing something right, working with people and helping people because, again, God, Uncle Jimmy, whatever you believe in, I believe in God, has repaid me 10-fold, 20-fold, 100-fold, 5,000-fold. And she wanted to go back to school. This was 4 years ago. So we sent her back to school to become what I do today. And as of about 14 months ago, she opened my Manchester office as my lead therapist.
My gosh. How do you get to that? So before this, you hadn't seen her in how many years?
30.
30 years. 30 years.
Yeah.
What goes through your mind when you get that message?
Shock was the first one. Disbelief probably followed behind. I've misread the message. And finally, oh my God. Oh my God. I still have that message on the wall. We printed it out and put it on the wall. It was just a game changer for me because, and guys, if you suffer from the disease, you will relate to this so much, is there had to be a point in my life, Manny, where I psychologically cut them off because it was too painful for me. So I'd cut them off. They were dead to me. And I don't mean that in a horrible way. I mean, I couldn't cope. I would have shot myself in the head when I come to America because I can get hold of a gun or something. I had something crazy like that. Because I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with them. Every Christmas and birthday, you know, I was sobbing on the floor and I couldn't live like that. So I'd cut them off in my mind. So when it come around, it was like so many feelings, so many thoughts, so many everything. But yeah, it was a changer. It was a life changer for me because I was connected back to family, and of course my granddaughter, which I adore absolutely. She's probably 4 or 5, I don't know, 4 maybe right now. So yeah, it was just changes your life, man, for good.
What do you say to somebody who's lived, like you just shared, an abundance of information in such a short period of time. So thank you. Like, what do you say to somebody who's living through that journey? Because you're not, you talk about the journey you had. It's not unique to you. There's so many others where I mean, we know that. What do you share with
Millions of other people, in the situation I was in. And there's a couple of things I need to tell you guys. And believe me, from this old man with all the experience I've had and the studying and all the school, 27 years in schools and colleges to be what I am today, I've got to tell you a couple of things. First of all, dialogue is important with another human being. Don't isolate. Don't stay in that place. It's temporary. Okay. Secondly is this phase will not last. You can get through this phase. When you start speaking to somebody moving forward, whatever does it for you, AA meetings, fellowship meetings, and start getting treatment from a professional, because what happens is there's 100% recovery from this deal. And I've never, 8,000 patients, 30 years down the line, I have never not seen kids go back to their parents. Never not seen it if you do the right thing. So continue, carry on. There's hope. And there's two things you realize. First of all the shit that you went through that devastated you and your family, instead of them horrible, tragic memories, that becomes an asset. It's like a semester at Harvard, what I learned on the streets, preparing to go forward to help other people. And secondly, dads or moms, send a Christmas card and birthday card every single time. And I'll tell you why this is important. Just after me and Charlie got reunited again, my parents died. So my sister and my daughter was in my mom and dad's house clearing all out. And there was a huge chest in the corner. Charlie went over there. She opened it up, and there was every single card, present, Christmas card, birthday card that I'd sent to my mom, where my ex-wife wouldn't have, so my mom kept it. And I told her, I kept sending the cards. She didn't believe me. She opened this drawer. It's another game changer. Every card. There must have been, I don't know how many cards in there. Presents and birthday cards. So do the right thing, guys. Never give up. Keep going forward. I hate the thing, if I can do it, you can do it. You know something?
So what's the importance when I'm super curious now. The importance of that card is a connection. Is that what it is? Like, what's the importance of that?
Well, it's shown her that I'd never given up on her.
Got it.
Because what children think is that you walk out their lives, the first thing they think is they've done something wrong.
Oh, gosh.
Secondly, that the abandonment, I must be this, because dad doesn't love me anymore. And Charlie thought that for many, many years, because this is how it went down. We went to the attorney. I'd just gone on the streets. It was me, my wife, my mom and dad. And she wanted all the assets that we'd gained, cars, houses, money in the bank, to turn over to her fully 100%. So I didn't want to do it. But my dad, who's a very quiet man, we've never had a talk. He's that kind of person. He's very shy. But he came out at the attorney's office and he said, if you're any man that I've raised, you will walk in the office and sign everything over to her for your children's sake. We went in and my wife says, you will always see the children 2 or 3 times a week, every single week, especially when you get off the streets. But even before that, Rob, I'm never going to stop you seeing the kids. And my mom said, I agree, we'll never stop doing it. I signed 7 pieces of paper that day, and on the final signature, I slid it across to the attorney. She stood up and said, you'll never see your kids again. And she stormed out. But what was even more devastating for me, God, I've never told this story, Manny. God, that flashback now. What was devastating for me is my mom stood up and said, you've got to let them go. All your promises, you're going to come around with you drunk and let these kids go for their sake. And she walked out. And I knew my life was over right there. Yeah, it was a pretty traumatic day.
How do you recover from that? Like, what happens next? Because that's like you're bringing tears to that. I share it, so thank you for that. That's when you're thinking you're doing the right thing, and then you get confronted, and it's like, what? I'm sitting here going, holy shit! It feels like it's all over at that point in time. Like, what's it all worth at that point in time? What the heck is life about? How do you get past that?
Well, many years past, I could see why she did it, and I'm so grateful she did, because I was incapable of being a father. But you know, 14 months on the streets, and you get hardened a little bit. And like I told you, psychologically, I had to let them go in my head. And then I was lost for a long time, Manny, and I lost my identity on the streets. So it was just too painful to deal with. So that's why I kept drinking. Well, one of the reasons I kept drinking. And then when I got off the streets, finally, and there's about 3 or 4% of people who are homeless in Manchester, England, get off the streets. 96, 97% die on the streets. So when I got off, I swore myself I'd work with alcoholics and families. This was all them years ago, to get over the disease and understand, because nobody understands what I was going through. Just stop drinking, my dad said. The doc said, just go to AA, you'll be okay. It's alcoholism. Alcohol has 1% to do with alcoholism. The same with drug addiction. It's not the illness, it's the symptom. So if I have chicken pox and you go, hey, you can see you got chicken pox, I go, how do you know? I see the spots all over you.
Right.
Well, actually, that's a symptom of the viral infection inside me that can kill me as an adult. People don't see that. They see the spots, they see the alcohol. They think that alcohol is the problem. The problem was me, Manny. The problem was a self-destructive path from a hereditary disease for which there is no cure. 3 parts of my brain differ from anybody else's brain. All alcoholics do. There's a part of the brain that finally turns around to me and tells me not to eat food or drink water, but to drink alcohol.
Right.
That's why alcoholics towards the end go days or weeks without food or water, because the hypothalamus is telling us to drink alcohol to survive. Not a lot of people know that. It took me years and years of scientific testing to find out what that part of the brain does. But you get over it one day at a time, Manny, and you start helping people. You see your children in other children. You see yourself in other people. You stay strong. God took me off the streets. I had faith that it was in his hand, not my hand. I couldn't do this on my own. What I have done is humanly impossible, in my opinion. What's happened to me over the years is humanly impossible. I've built a multi-million-dollar empire. I have, beautiful people in my life. I've worked with over 8,000 people. It's humanly possible. I had to have God's help. There was no other way around it. I put my faith in a higher power I call God, and he looks after me every single day, and he's took me to greatness. And my youngest daughter will come round just when the time is right. That's all. I truly believe that. And you get stronger every day, Manny. And then God gives me little things like my daughter back, my granddaughter in my life. And it's kind of key indicators that you're doing a good job. Because I sat where I am today, I always say I live in the big house, drive crazy expensive car, and I mean crazy expensive cars, wear stupid watches, cost 6 figures and stuff like that, just because I can pay for them in cash, because what God's put me today. But my feet will always be on the streets. But I know one thing, man, when I get to heaven and the big gates are open, God's not going to ask me how big my house was, or how much my car I was driving, or how much money you had in the bank. He's going to ask one thing, I think. He's going to ask, Rob, how many people did you help? And that's what it's about for me. It's not about the money. Yeah, I have money. We give $150,000 back, me and my wife, out of our bank account to people who are struggling and people that are trying to get their life together. 25% of our work is done pro bono. Now, there is a waiting time for that of a year, but we've got to be giving back. And when you give back, you're grateful of what you have. And I was telling somebody before, a patient, every night I do the lockdown of the house. That's my job. Wife gets the dogs in. And every night before I lock the back door, I walk out, and the swimming pool and the lights and the trees and and I look at that every night, and I thank God for that. And I say to myself for the first time that day, you're doing good, man. I always do that. And my feet will always be in the trenches, though. Always, 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 to help the other person. Because there's one guy that helped me when I was on the streets. That's how he got on. It's a totally mind-blowing story itself, but first name was Derek. The second guy I met was John. But I want to be a Derek in your life. That's all I ever want with everybody.
And who's it? And who's Derek? Tell us about Derek.
Well, I'm on the streets again in the middle of the morning. I'm in the factory offices, place of town. It's dark. There's nobody there. I drop down to my hands and knees. I look up for the first time in my life, and I say, God, if there's a God up there, I can't do this my own anymore. Nobody there. 30 seconds later, A guy walked around the corner that's missed his last bus from Bible study. He'd been walking an hour. He took a quick back way through to his house that he'd never been before, come against me. He said, do you need help? And I said, yeah, I'm an alcoholic, I'm dying. He took me back to his house. And I bathed and got clothes and ate proper food for the first time. And he said, look, here's the deal. You can stay here for as long as you want, Rob. I believe God's put us together. And I'm like, God, I'll talk about God. He took my kids off me. He said, but you've got to come to these AA meetings with me. And I hated the meetings, man. I hated them. But I went, and halfway around, halfway through, this guy at the back had like a white beard, white hair, looked quite, he was dressed in like hippie clothes, but he looked quite, modern. And he said, my name's John, I'm a recovered alcoholic. And I was like, what did he say recover? Can't recover from this? What's he talking about? But he talked like I've never heard anybody talk. So after he finished, I walked up to him and I said, will you be my sponsor, John? My name's Rob. And he said, no. He said, but I will be your spiritual advisor for a period of 12 weeks. Every Wednesday night, man, I walked round to that guy's house. He took me an hour from Derek's. I left at, I think it was 6, got there for 7, stayed till 8, walked home, got home at 9, or something like that. Every single Wednesday for 12 weeks, I did that. And every time I went, I started to get a bit better and a bit better. And on the last day there, he put his arm around me. He'd never touched me before. He put his arm around me. He said, Rob, you're going to do some great things and your life will change from tomorrow. I remember it was yesterday. And I said, John, I'm in this guy's basement on a blow-up mattress. Nobody knows I'm there. I don't think it's going to change, but thank you for everything you've done. I got home. The next day, I'm cleaning the house because that's my job. And Derek comes home at noon. He said, hey, there's a guy. And I'm not told Derek nothing. There's a guy at work who sweeps the floor. He's just walked out on us. Do you want a job of sweeping the floor? I'm like, hell yes. Didn't notice the change. It was fine. Anyway, it turned into a full-time job that week because I took it seriously. So after about 3 or 4 weeks, I'm like, John was right. I was working with people who were getting well. So I went to the gas station. I bought a little card and a little teddy bear. Must have been this, but that's all I could afford for my first, 3 weeks pay packet. And I went back to his house, man, and I was going to tell him all these stories and how my life had changed thanks to him. And I got to the apartment and it looked a lot darker than it was when I went, but I knocked on the door and there was no answer. I knocked on the door that hard, man, that the lady on the right-hand side opened the door. She says, can I help you? And I said, can you tell me where John's moved to? And she said, John who? I said, John, your neighbor, the guy that used to live here. And she said, well, I've only been here for about 6 months and there's been nobody in that apartment since I've moved in. You have the apartment. So I let her close the door. I went to the left-hand side and I banged a bit harder than I should. Now I'm a little bit worried. And this big guy comes to the door. What do you want? I said, can you tell where John's relocated to? He said, John, what are you talking about, John? It's the guy living next door to you. I said, are you effing crazy? That's derelict. There's no floor. You walk in that room, you're going to drop right down. You can't go in it. It's derelict. There's no floor in it. And I'm like, I have the right place. So I got to the meeting where I met him like 3-4 months ago. And everyone then faces and things that everyone knows when I walk in the room. This guy goes, oh my God, Rob, you're back. I said, oh my God. I hugged him and said, does John still come here? And he said, John who? And I said, John, the guy asked me to be my sponsor, but he said no. Went over to the coffee machine and we were talking at the coffee machine. And he said, Rob, you were over near the coffee machine speaking to yourself. Never found that man, Manny. Never found him.
My gosh.
And that's most of my program today because God told him to tell me to guarantee people can recover. And I was laughed at. I was talked behind, snared at in meetings, AA meetings. They never say it to my face for about 10 years. And I came over to America and they did the same over here. But I kept going on. And at first, my methods and my scientific neuroscience ways of getting well, they buffed. The medical fraternity laughed at me and said, don't be so stupid. And then what happened, man, is people started to get well. And then the medical fraternity, all of a sudden now, who's this Dr. Robb Kelly? He's amazing. He's fantastic. And I just kept going on and on. So my 2 PhDs from universities are 3% of what I do. My studying out of school, neuroscience and neuroplasticity is probably 20% of what I do. And the other 77, 78% is what John taught me.
Wow. I don't care what people believe. Like, you know, like folks, there's something else out there. When you believe that you're here for different reasons, and there's bigger powers at play, whether it's God, whether it's universe, whatever it is you subscribe to, I don't give a shit. Like that's an earth shattering story. And it's not like, you know, you still took it for, John was right. You took the job and you kept going.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's like, okay, well, I want to help people. It takes a hell of a commitment to do that. And for 10 years, you're grinding it out. People are laughing in your face. And they're saying, nah, you know, Robb's just that, you know, crazy wacko, labeled whatever it is out there. Like there's, thank you. All I can say is thank you for sharing this message with the world.
And what people don't see, Manny, most of the time is they see who I am today. They see that I'm wealthy. They see me on TV. I work with movie stars. You know, we're very discreet concierge service. What they don't see is 14 years ago, when I've been in America for a few years, my house got foreclosed on, my apartment, because I couldn't afford the rent. They couldn't afford the mortgage. The reason why we couldn't afford the mortgage was because I was working with people free of charge rather than turning them away. What he didn't see is the hours and hours I've spent traveling around the world teaching people how to recover full-time for no money at all. We were penniless only about 14 months ago. You know, I had to go back and live with my second wife's mother. We had no money, and I was still working with people, and I was still adamant. And God gave me this physique that no one's going to mess with me. Or very few people, you know, I don't know what it is, but and I keep going. And the only reason why people listen to me in the early days is because if you didn't, I'd probably beat you up and drag you outside. I was a little bit angry that these people were trying to work with other people, like AA people, didn't have a clue what they were doing, and people were dying, Manny, inside and outside them rooms. And I was sick and tired of that. I was sick and tired of wrong information. I was sick and tired of families being torn apart like mine. When there is a solution, there's a permanent solution for this bullshit that we go through, guys. I'm telling you that now, 100%. We have a 97% success rate, unheard of, unfreaking heard of. The nearest to us is about, I don't know, 14%, if that, you know. And we're the only company in the world that offer a money back guarantee if you relapse while following our program when you leave us. Nobody else does that. So
you talk about full recovery. This is the whole thing, right?
100%.
You know, like we live in a world where you know, pharmaceuticals drive the world, and truthfully, you know, we can argue, do they even want you to recover? Take another pill, go through another scenario.
Wow, right? You hit it on the head.
I'm gonna call shit the way it is. You know, there's no money in recovery.
Oh, shut up! That's my line.
Here's another prescription. Take this, do this, do it. You know, so what ends up happening? It's the alcohol, it's the drugs, and you know, I'm fortunate today that I'm not in that space, but it affects all of our lives in so many different ways. The alcohol, you said it earlier, you know, something along the lines of the addiction is you know, is the symptom. Like that's just the behavior to whatever else is going on.
Yeah, I mean, but we're programmed in this country and other countries. An American citizen, as of about 4 years ago, and I take that very personally and serious. But this is what happens. So you get depressed. Okay, and you say to your friend or your wife, you go, I'm depressed, I don't want to, yeah, you are depressed, go and see the doctor. So I go to the doctor, he gives me some depressed pills, which is basically an SSR, slow release serotonin. I go back home and he said, a few weeks' time, you'll start to kind of feel like your old self, which I never do. But now I'm attached to them pills for the rest of my life. Okay, let's have a look at what depression is. Depression is lack of serotonin and lack of dopamine.
Right.
Okay. Well, okay, so dopamine and serotonin are the only two out of the four chemicals that are produced in our gut, okay? So rather than go to the doctor and say, hey, I'm depressed, why isn't anybody asking me why my serotonin's low in the first place? But they don't. You look at treatment centers, Johnny's gone in for his fifth time, spending $100,000 a month in his treatment. What? The doctor's put you can't solve drug addiction with a drug. You can go into Suboxone and the likes for a taper for a week or two, but you can't cure, you can't fix, you can't do anything with drugs. You hear it all the time. Oh, I have heart disease because it's in the family, or I have inflammation in the knee, my mother had it. It's biologically and physically impossible to pass down diseases. It's impossible. Do your homework, Gary Brecker. It's impossible. But what we do is we're lacking in some sort of nutrient. We're lacking in a substance that the whole family generation has been lacking in and not eaten that causes that illness. And yet we take it for granted. Oh, I'll go to the doctor, he'll give me some pills. Guys, do you know what the third leading cause of death is in the United States of America? The doctors, the health industry. The third leading cause of death. I will never go to a medical doctor ever again unless I break my arm or something. Never. Because they're programmed into dishing out. Now listen, guys, there's millions of doctors out there that I love and we do business with. But there's a bunch out there that, and we tried this. I went to 5 doctors asking, when I first came here, asking for Adderall because I couldn't concentrate. 2 out of the 5 didn't even look up from the pad, just give me a prescription. The other 2 people chatted to me for about 30 seconds, and the other said no. And I said, what do you mean no? He said, I don't do that. And I went, we will be working together. My name's Dr. Robb. I introduced myself, but you're right, there's no money in recovery. They have to keep us sick. So you look at the oils we use for cooking and stuff, like vegetable oil. Doesn't it sound so? We use vegetable oil. That's cornstarch. Our food is sprayed in 95% cornstarch of the food we eat are sprayed in cornstarch. Where did the oils come from? Avocado oil, boom, you can use that. Everything else is not supposed to be in our body. We can't process that. So where did them cooking oils come from? Well, Rockefeller, back in the day, who loved his trains, decided to create this crude oil out of the ground that would go into these trains and make the engines work. And it was amazing. And he earned millions, if not billions of dollars from this oil to go in the trains. But when the motor car came along, the oil sales went right down because less and less trains. So what he did, this is fascinating. So he created like a medical board. Right? Go Google this, guys. Mind blowing. He created this medical board and he had like 4 doctors on it as a board of we know what's best for health. And them 4 doctors were paid by Rockefeller. And them guys said that the oil that we fry things in is the best thing since sliced bread. And that's when our cooking oil started to come in. We cannot process cooking oil, guys. We can't do it. Saturated food, we can't do it. So, you know, the doctor isn't always right. I want to tell you, question everything.
Question everything. And yet we live in a world where it's like, I trust my doctor blindly without doing research, yet, I'm not going to go and spend X dollars to look after my health. What the hell's wrong with us, folks? Right? Like, if you...
Look,
yeah.
Manny, listen to this, okay? So let's take it on the healthy food. So in England, you go buy McDonald's fries. There are 2 ingredients in McDonald's fries in England. 2 ingredients. One of them, salt. 2 ingredients, Manny. Do you know how many ingredients are in the French fries in America? 16. What the hell's going on? What? Yeah, exactly. Our food is killing us. And when you mention it, you get shut down. When you go against the grain, I was on a live interview and my people warned Purdue not to do the live interview with me and an attorney and somebody else from Purdue, the producer of the biggest addiction problem in the world ever. And you can Google this and find it. We were having a conversation in the studio, me and 2 of their guys, and I destroyed them guys. I would not shut up. I spoke over them. I destroyed them. And I swear on my children's life, the very next day they filed for bankruptcy. Now, I'm not saying I had this much to do with it, but I'm sure it was the straw that broke the camel's back. It's like, you can't shut me up. How are you going to shut me up? If you're going to recover from alcohol and drug addiction, you need to live your best life ever. Alcoholics and drug addicts get 2 lives in one lifetime, man. Let's not fuck the second one up, guys. Yeah. We got to carry it. The reason why, this oxygen. So I'm going to say, people go, oh yeah, oxygen, yeah. We only breathe 25 to 30% of our capacity. That's all, okay? Any cancers, any growth, any illnesses, all grow in a hypoxic area of the body. The absence of oxygen equals the presence of disease. One of the reasons why nobody has woke up laughing ever in the world is lack of oxygen. So when you get up and do your 25 exaggerated breaths in to get that oxygen with you, you are set for the day, man. Everything's starting to repair. You feel fantastic. And out the door you go, ready for the day. The only reason that people feel good, or runners call it a runner's high, is not because of the exercise. It's because of this in between sets. Okay, and it's so primitive. But people don't think, yeah, I can't just do 20, 30 breaths, exaggerated breaths in the morning, and my body's going to fix itself and everything's going to be good. I beg to differ. That's what I'm going to say about that.
You've touched, moved, and inspired me in so many different ways, and the impact that you've left on our audience. And there's so many things we haven't touched. My gosh, there's so many things we haven't touched. You know, I really want to volley over to you. You know, if you could share sort of one huge takeaway with the world, what do you want people out there to know?
There's an alternative. And when I say that, think about food, think about exercise, life, you know, job. You know, there's an alternative, guys. Don't think this is your lot. Just because your father grew up like mine, working at the gas company, digging holes in the road, and my brother, doesn't mean I have to do that. Why don't you break the mold? Because if you're listening to this show, you're not listening by mistake. I've learned that from just energy and the universe and presence and how much energy we carry, and outside we carry ourselves. You're not listening to this by accident. Believe it, okay? So change is 100% possible. Once neural pathways start to change, and everything's possible, but it all starts with the mind. So the mind sits inside the brain. It's not the same thing, guys. So have you ever heard the saying mind over matter? Of course. Mind over the brain is matter. So once you make your mind up with the energy and the positive and gonna do it, what happens is the energy bursts into the brain and neural pathways pick that up. The amygdala picks that up. The anterior cortex, the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, the insula, the hippocampus, they all draw on that, and it becomes possible because the behavior changes. So they always used to say to me when I said anything's possible, this is before Trump, but they always used to say, I can't be president of the United States. Okay, forget your political views for a second. We're a freaking businessman. We're in the country with no political experience whatsoever. Don't ever tell me you can't do whatever you want to do. It's just not true, guys. Quantum physics also backs this up. It's just not true. Stop sit there feeling sorry for yourself. If you have an illness, get help, start dialogue. It's beautiful. But 9 out of 10 people listening to this, if you want to be a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, what's stopping you? Yeah, but give me one reason why would stop you. Yeah, but no, that's an excuse. Give me a reason. Yeah, but no, that's another excuse. Give me a reason. Give me a freaking reason why you can't do that job as CEO of that multi-billion-dollar company. You can't give me one, because anything is possible once you know the workings of the mind, the brain, the universe, the energy around us that we can create. So I'll finish on this. So let's take a basketball court, for instance. Quantum physics tells me I could be, let's say, 12 places on that basketball court at the same time, because nothing's really solid. So can I visualize myself 12 times on the basketball court? Yes. You can see me. I can see me 12 times on that basketball court. Where do you want to be, Rob? Well, I've never played basketball, but have a guess what? I'm not stupid enough to find out that if I go near the goal and get the ball and put it in, I'm going to be the hero of the game. So I want to be that guy near the net who's going to get the ball and put it in, be the hero. Okay, so how do you get there? Because I know you're all thinking that. So how do I get there? You walk over and you take that freaking position. You don't crawl for it. You don't beg for it. You walk over and you claim it as yours. And once you can see that and attach a feeling to that, how you would feel once you got there, and you start acting, walking, drinking, everything like that winner, like that CEO, you will become that CEO. And it's as simple as that. There were trials in England many years ago in the 60s. And this blows my mind, Manny. And when I heard it, it set me off into my neuroscience learnings. A scientific research lab went into this school in England, in a country little village somewhere. And let's say there was 50 people in the school, ages between 9 and 12. Can't remember the exact age, maybe 7 and 12. And the scientific research people said to the headmaster, we have a test, an exam for your youngsters. And when they complete it, we will tell you the 3 top people that's going to become captains of industry, prime ministers. And the teacher said it's impossible. And so, can we try it? Well, of course you can try it. Come in. Give all the papers out, 20-minute exam. They filled it all in. All the kids handing them back. The researcher took him and said, we'll be back tomorrow with your top 3. So sure enough, next day he came round and said, we have your top 3 of students that are going to be captains of industry, absolutely change the world. Who's number 1? It's Johnny. Johnny, are you sure? I told you this test won't work. He said, yeah, it's Johnny. Then it's Bill, then it's Julie. Okay, we'll be back in 12 months' time to see how our guys are doing. You're kind of wasting your time because Johnny, I'm telling you now, you're wasting your time. So they went back in 1 year's time and they said to the headmaster, how's our three guys doing? How's Johnny doing? He's like, oh my God, how the hell did you know? How did you know that them three, especially Johnny, they've been offered for universities, the top of the class? How did you know? And this research lab said, we didn't. We took them exam papers and we threw them away the next day and we chose 3 random people out of your school. But because you treated them like winners, so they become. Boom.
Wow.
Same with life.
Thank you tremendously. And there's an alternative to everything. I just love that. I love that. Question everything and flip the script on it. Thank you. There is so much more. How do people get in touch with you? Like, what is the easiest way to get in touch with you?
So I guess Google or any search engine. If you're only listening, not watching, I spell my name with 2 B's, ROBBKELY. RobbKelly.com is the website. Jump on any search engine, just put my name in, come and friend us, come and like us. But listen, guys, I said at the beginning that my feet are always in the trenches. And I can see some of you, if you search me, you'll see all the great stuff I get to do. 214-600-0210 is my personal cell phone number. If you are in that place that we were talking about, if you are there thinking you're never going to amount to anything, this is your lot in life, you're never thin enough, blonde enough, tall enough, or rich enough. If you're sat there right now in the corner, I'm going to tell you a couple of things. First of all, I want to apologize to you because somebody's put that thought pattern there. Babies are born with 2 fears, fear of falling, fear of loud noises, the rest are man-made. Somebody said something to you that's caused that. And secondly, send me a text. Hey, Dr. Robb, I've just seen you on Manny's show. Yeah, I'm going through some bad times. I will call you back, guys, and give you a 10 to 15-minute pep talk that will change your life. And the idea behind that is simply this. I'd rather give you 15 minutes of my time free of charge than hear of your funeral or suicide next week.
Thank you for doing what you do. Thanks for making a difference.
Oh, well, let's do it, baby.
You're amazing. I appreciate you and thank you for your time. Thank you, Dr. Robb.
Thank you, Manny.
Take care. Goodbye. You ready? That was more than magical. If you're here to the end, there are no doubt in my mind that it brought tears to your eyes as it did for me when Dr. Robb talks about the society we live in, the limiting beliefs, the prescriptive assumptions, the lack of oxygen, and how disease forms in that absence of oxygen, the importance of breathing, serotonin, dopamine, where they actually come from, what we actually do about it. And the most important takeaway for me is there's an alternative. Stay curious, question everything, and there's an alternative. And that segues right into an alternative for you and everybody else out there listening. It is an honor and pleasure to talk about Premier Physiotherapy, one-stop shop. I am a proud partner of it, where we offer mental therapy and emotional behavior coaching. Like, this is the shit we talk about, folks. You want to make a difference. You want to pivot past things. We all have shit in life that when we unpack can really make a difference. This now creates a platform to have that conversation. It breaks the barriers of I can't afford this, I can't do this. It's covered under insurance, folks. Listen, there's so much else out there. Question everything. There's alternatives. You don't have to be where you are today. Dr. Robb Kelly, man, was he inspirational. Thanks for being here to the end. Until we connect again next time, do something great, help somebody else out there, and know that there's an alternative.